Hi everyone. Today what I'm going to take you through is how to refurbish an old blog post. And don't worry, I fully intend to tell you what I mean by that. We're going to pick a blog post from my site, DaedTech.com, and we're going to go and find an old one, but not just by clicking at random. We're going to find an old post. I've been doing this for a long time. And then we're going to dress it up a little bit to make it more friendly to readers coming in via organic search. So first, let me explain the motivation behind this and how I might pick a post to refurbish. This is DaedTech's Google Analytics, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at all of my traffic and see what's coming in by source or medium, and I am only for the purposes of this interested in what's coming in through organic search. And I am interested, let's just arbitrarily say I want to see what the most people have been searching for this year in 2018. I had a spike there. And I'll just do this by month so it's a little less noisy to look at. And then, so right now I'm just saying I've filtered by medium. I'm going to pick a secondary dimension and do behavior, and I'm going to look for the landing page. So where are they entering the site? And what I see here is that I have a variety of posts, and so I can tell which are my most popular posts. So this is the one that in 2018 has attracted the most visitors. Now, what I'm interested in looking at here, if I'm thinking about like what it is I want to do, you know, why do this at all? Why would I want to do anything to an old post? Well, if we look here, here is a post, and it's drawing in all these people, but of all these people that come in, like 95% of them just leave. That's what this bounce means. And frankly, they're not spending very much time on this page. And they're not visiting very many other pages on my site. If you compare all this to the site's overall averages, like look at that, it's a tiny fraction in all cases. Like these are much better figures than for this post. So this post is getting a lot of people to come and land here, but for a fairly significant chunk of them, it's not actually solving their problem. So that is kind of the reason that you want to go in and you want to refurbish a blog post. So let's dive in, first of all, and kind of maybe take a look at what's wrong with this blog post. This is a blog post. Its category is .NET, and I've tagged it with C#, and let me see. This theme doesn't actually tell me when I wrote the post, but, oh, wait a minute. If I kind of do a search, let's see. If you can't tell, I don't often use my own site this way. Splitting strings, I can actually see right here. So I wrote this post in September of 2012. It's almost 6 years old. And if we look at this post, so I lead in with a little bit of code. I kind of get to the point. And then I'm talking about in the backstory, like here is how you split a string by a character. And my thing here is that I want to split a string with a string. So most of you watching are developers. You can probably appreciate what this means. So, you know, I'm stating the problem here. I've got some code examples. This is a pretty short post, number one. At some point I saw that this was getting a lot of search, so I put in this little call to action at the bottom where I can, where I give them something to click on if they're interested in reading more about sort of the tech stuff I've done on DaedTech.com. So there's that, and then they could sign up for my mailing list or read my book or do all these other things. That being said, there's not a lot of meat to this post, and there are some things that we could probably do to that, so let's kind of take a look at what this looks like. I'm going to log in to DaedTech. Let's see here. I'm going to refresh this page, and it'll give me the option to edit the post, which I'll do. Now, I've already done a little bit of refurb on this post, so to speak, because I guarantee you at the time I was not optimizing for a keyword, but now, as you can see, I have a paid version of Yoast, and I'm actually optimizing for 3 different keywords. And you can see that I also added a meta in here. SEO title, goodness. I think at one point I had paid actually a firm to come in and do some SEO optimization. I didn't know anything about this 3-4 years ago, but this is probably not the best. C# string split, splitting strings with substrings. Okay. So if I look here, you know, the readability is not great. I have sentences that are too long. So one thing I could do is split up this text. Another issue is this is a pretty short post. So how might we get this to green? Well, I can split up some of these sentences, first of all. A string.split method in C# is probably something with which any C# developer is familiar. Here, tokens will be an array of strings. So I'm referring to the variable. It's not exactly earth-shattering. I am not sure why that's capitalized. It's not exactly earth-shattering to tokenize a string in this fashion, and some incarnation or another of this predates C# and probably even my time on this planet. Very clever. Now, what I could do is simply do this. And, you know, this might seem like sort of unimportant optimizations, but this stuff does matter. I've been experimenting with this, and what you see is that when you make the text more skimmable, and you break it up with screenshots, and you break it up with code snippets and stuff like that, it does work. So one of the first things I can do is make these sentences shorter and make the text more skimmable. So like this is what's known as a bucket brigade here. But what if I want, you know, a quick question that you ask? So the eyes go right to this. What if I want to split over a string? Now I can grok this like kind of instantly, and it makes me want to read on. Whereas if this is part of the beginning of a paragraph, I might get to this and get tired of it. So that's something we can do. And I'm kind of also on the lookout for these too long sentences that we're talking about here. This is too long. First of all, that call to x.split is not actually invoking split char, but rather split params char, notwithstanding the fact that this isn't advertised in the MSDN page unless you want to drill into the individual methods. So this is kind of a long sentence. What I can do is add a period here and make this parenthetical. And then add a carriage return there. So I don't know if yet, sometimes Yoast isn't these days great about updating the readability, but if I do an update here, what we might see is that this percentage of too long sentences is going down from 26 to, hey, something, now we're green again. Green doesn't automatically make people stay on your site, but it's a good indicator. And I can do this again. This is another bucket brigade opportunity. Two things suck about this, like this draws the eye. You want to know what sucks. You go on to read further. So we're already green here, and that's a positive sign. Not to mention that we've got some code samples in this. But we can probably do a little bit more. Let me see what this looks like now. It's going to be more skimmable. Yoast is happy because I'm making things more readable, shorter sentences. But let's make this even more scannable. Two things suck about this. Instead of saying one and then parenthetically enumerating, we can make things more scannable. Yeah, one, I have to specify some enum that I don't care about. And two, whoops. I guess that's fine. Let's see what this looks like now. And this is a good technique as well to make your text more scannable. Basically, anytime you can break up the text, that's good. You want to do everything you can to encourage the reader to read on. Because keep in mind, what's going on here is with this particular post, whoever's Googling like split string with substring or all these different things, when it comes to what they're seeing on this post, like what they're doing, they're probably trying to fix some really annoying issue. And if they are confronted with a giant wall of text, they're immediately going to bounce. If instead they see some code snippets, later some graphics, some, X, Y, and Z, bop, 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 like right down the page, they're going to be more inclined to stick around. I mean, think of yourself when you're Googling some issue. If you have like some syntax error and you're trying to figure out how to fix it, and you click on some post and it's just like a 500-word paragraph, you're going to leave. But if you see a bunch of like code snippets, that's going to be good. If you see things like this, you're going to stick around. So that's, let's see. That's something I can do. Another thing is we can make better headings. What if I want to split, so I actually kind of have to read this. I haven't read this post in a while. What about if we have ... as a delimiter instead of dot, and I want to split Eric ... That's a strange example. But anyway, people will probably get the idea. So probably an overload of string.split that takes, well, no, actually it turns out, the API for string.split is pretty unintuitive, and I have a link to this API. So I'm giving some background information here, but this is sort of weird. What I want to do is instead tell the reader what's going on here. It's actually harder than you think to split strings using substrings. So that actually tells the reader what they're going to see if they keep reading. So calling split are equally valid syntax-wise in the case of Eric DaedTech. X.split and X.split with this set of parameters. So what one might expect is that there would be an overload of... Nope, instead you have to use split. So what I'm going to say here is I want to advertise that I'm going to elaborate on this concept so that people will keep reading. The awful, let's see. We want to communicate to the reader what's bad about this or what sucks. What's really not great about the default way to split strings with substrings. There you go. Two things really suck about this. So now instead of introducing regex.split, we're going to say this gets a lot easier and prettier using regex.split. Okay, so let me do an update here, and this is still too short, and I'm going to do a teaser for something I want to talk about in the future. So splitting strings with substrings, if I go over here into my handy keyword tool, Moz, and I do a keyword explorer, this post actually ranks for all sorts of stuff, and so I've made it more readable. I'm probably going to tweak the figures a little bit and get people to click through on more stuff. Site overview. They're not zero ranking. Okay, Moz. Let me see, sorry. I'm going to show you in a second that there are definitely not zero ranking keywords for that page. or it wouldn't be one of the most popular pages on my site. So we've done some optimizations here that are going to help, but like making this longer and addressing more of these keywords would definitely be a help, and I'm going to kind of show you that here. If I filter, so look, here we go, split string on one char with another C#. And this just comes up over and over again. So let's see. Here we go. Here's like 4 things in a row this ranks for. C# string split. C# split on string. So this is a good one. This is like what people ought to be finding me for, because that's what I'm describing. C# string split with C# spelled out. String.split C#. So this is a teaser for next time, but what we actually probably want to do is dive here more heavily into the content in the future and think about how to serve more people with this page. And that would be a true refurbishment. So I just kind of did a little bit so far of, I guess, window dressing on this page. I also should probably take this out. You don't really want to link to something you're trying to rank for, but anyway. So this was sort of a facelift, if you will, but to like refurbish it fully, we would want to go and start adding content to make sure that people are getting information. So splitting strings with substrings, what I might want to do is really elaborate on how you do the split in the first place to serve some of these people that are coming in. So stay tuned for that next time. One last thing I'll mention when you're refurbishing a post, right here, the only link I have until the very end is a link to Microsoft's site. So if people are reading through here and they get clicky, they're going to click out away from my page, and that's not really, or my blog, and that's not really what you want. So I've got this feature where Yoast, because of the paid thing, is selecting other like DaedTech posts I could link to. So like it's saying something about public fields. I could try that. These are sort of odd suggestions. If there's anything about APIs, maybe I could API. Characteristics of good APIs. So let me do this as an example. So I'm going to say much cleaner API. Now, the reason this is good is because I want to give people other places to go on my site. You recall that that statistic of like bounce rate and pages per visit. If we go back and look over here, like nobody really clicks on anything here. But if you look at this post, do an update. Like what do they have to click on? So there's, if you're looking at a blog post, you just mentally tune out kind of all this stuff typically, unless you really want to go searching for it. So like they can click on this stuff, but there's nothing in the post for them to click on other than this thing that takes them over to Microsoft's site. But now I've added something where if they're interested, oh, looks like it didn't take quite yet. Or is this a preview? Oh, this is a preview. But now I've added something where, you know, they at least have one other link to click on other than my call to action in down here. So if you've gotten this far and you're interested in more that I have to say, you might wonder like, oh, what do I have to say about clean APIs? So on and so forth. Here we go. So I'll wrap there. We have done a little bit of work here that's going to make my site slightly more accessible today, and hopefully it's going to help me out. And the way it helps me out is, sure, this page is already ranking for a bunch of things, which is good, but Google takes into account what people do when they get here. So the better these stats are, the more Google's going to start ranking this for other things. And kind of in a trickle effect, the more Google's going to start ranking my site for other pages. So there's kind of a synergy here where if Google starts liking this more because searchers like it more, Google's going to start to also like these other things more. So zooming all the way out, if you're going to do this for your site, if you've got a bunch of old content that is actually ranking but could be better, that can help you with even posts that you're writing now. So if you have content that does well that you haven't looked at in a while, it's kind of a good idea to go back through and look at it with fresh eyes to see, are we serving searchers as well as we could be? Have I learned things in the last couple of years that would go well? Am I a better writer? Could I add some links? Could I touch some things up? Definitely worth doing. Keep an eye on which posts are popular on your site and bringing in searchers, and then, make sure those searchers have a good experience. And that is it for the day, so take care, everyone, and I will catch up with you next time.